Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sisters and brothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sorry, I just need the clicker for a moment. Thank you. Thank you. If I were to ask you a question, how important are the words stability and security in your business and personal lives? How many of you would consider them to be high up on your list? Can I have a show of hands? The words stability and security in your business and personal lives. Okay, quite a few of you. Thank you. In many industries today, staying in the same place and doing the same thing is not safe. In fact, it is quite dangerous. The key to survival for many businesses today is to innovate your product or your service in a way that allows you to reach more and more customers, as well as continuing for you to become more and more relevant. Just like sharks need to keep moving to find new prey in the seas to ensure their own survival, entrepreneurs need to keep sensing new opportunities to invent their product or service. Otherwise, they risk becoming obsolete and irrelevant. However, there is one thing innovating your product within an industry, but to be willing to polarize an industry, to disrupt it, is something that is totally different. 2 decades ago, the man on your screen, Clayton Christensen, a professor at Harvard Business School, wrote 2 landmark books. In the first of these, entitled The Innovator's Dilemma, Christensen made a distinction between 2 types of technology that affects businesses. A distinction which is today accepted as true wisdom. On the one hand, he described what he called sustaining technologies, which help organizations to make small and marginal improvements in what they are doing. They require gradual change and pretty much retain the status quo within an organization. On the other hand, there are what Christensen describes as disruptive technologies, which are wild and unexpected technological breakthroughs that require corporations and companies to radically rethink their current existence. Although these technologies seem to be of limited interest at first, eventually and over a period of time, they overturn existing products and markets. In today's world, the concept of reimagining your company's economics, model, and message in order to survive and thrive couldn't be more relevant, as the world itself continues to reinvent more and more rapidly. Disruption, therefore, by definition, is transformative, and the brands that learn early on are not just visionaries, but are the inventors of their own industry. They single-handedly disrupt the way everyday consumers operate within their own lives. Let me give you an example. A few months back, I was in Manhattan in New York on the morning of a huge security alert at Penn Station. For those who've been there, they will know that Penn Station is actually one of the busiest in the city. I was intending to take the subway to my destination, but as the network ground to a halt, soldiers were everywhere, cops were everywhere, all the people were looking for yellow cabs. To get a yellow cab in Manhattan that morning was impossible. However, an innovative solution came about. You take out your phone, you go into Uber, and you dial an Uber cab. Within a matter of seconds, I was sitting in a cab where people on the streets were waiting for tens of minutes to try and find a yellow cab. Uber, by definition, is the perfect example of a disruptive brand. It rethought the mechanism of hailing a cab to ensure that a driver was nearby you to pick you up and take you to your destination, as well as using things like dynamic price modeling, where prices vary depending on the time of day that you travel, and also the ability to have your payment details already stored on the account of Uber allows you to get into a cab and out of it very, very quickly. Uber has, as a result, carved its own unique niche within the market. Let me give you another example. Another brand that has caused disruption within their industry ushered in the closure of the famous blockbuster video chain that we remember from back in the day. And that brand is called Netflix. When Netflix began to deliver DVDs to people's homes in 1997, it was clear that a cultural shift was about to take place. People no longer had the desire to stop by a video store on the way back from work to pick up a movie. They wanted it delivered to their doorstep. But this was just the tipping point for Netflix. Next came online streaming and online movies. People no longer wanted to find a mailbox to return their DVDs, let alone stopping by a video store. The brand kept up its antenna, and it listened to what the consumers wanted before consumers realized themselves. More recently, Netflix started creating its own content of programs, with the premise that content is king. And as a result, they've won many plaudits for their innovative and groundbreaking shows. Netflix has had such a profound impact on the TV market that other streaming services, such as Amazon, for example, have also been following suit. And what has been the ultimate success for the Netflix brand is something that we only heard in the news in the last few weeks, when the Obamas decided to produce their own unique brand of content for the next Netflix streaming service. Netflix is therefore pushing the boundaries in its own industry, and it is changing the way that each of us watch TV. No longer do we watch TV at a fixed time and a fixed place, but you go on the tube and you see people watching their TV on demand on their phones. Sometimes people binge watch, and that is as a result of the disruption that Netflix has caused within its own market. When I moved into the technology industry a couple of years back, after a comfortable 10 years within the pharma industry, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. It was very much for me a leap into the unknown. In my first month, I joined other new starters in our New York offices, and we met the owners of the company pictured on the slide. And they make a habit of every month meeting new starters in the organization, and they use that platform to inculcate their own values and messages. What are the take-home messages I took from that meeting? Well, one line stood out more than any other. The owners of the company told us that each of us needs to operate outside of our comfort zone in order to make the company successful. If we are operating within our comfort zone, our company flatlines and stagnates, and our competitors take over. For us to continue to be at the forefront of the industry, we need to work out of that comfort zone for us to provide real value to our customers. Our company's unwritten rule, therefore, is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. As humans, we invariably find solutions in positions of discomfort. Our survival mode kicks in. I look at Ramadan through a similar lens. Ramadan is also a disruptor. For 11 months in the year, we are in our comfort zone of eating, drinking, and doing our daily wajibat. It is a known quantity, and we are comfortable with it. What the fasting month does is to shake us out of this zone, and it challenges us to reinvent and to create a better version of ourselves. As well as periods of supplication and spirituality, it should also prompt us to look within ourselves and ask us hard questions about the direction of our lives and where we want to take it. For example, are we stagnating? Are we flatlining? Or are we adding true value to those around us in our lives? Within the next few days, we are approaching the last 10 nights of Ramadan, within which is Laylatul Qadr, or the night of destiny. We all know that good deeds performed on that single night equal to those performed over 1,000 months. And Allah will determine what will happen to us within the next year. This includes things like life and death, sustenance, and everything good or bad that is scheduled to happen to us. What we ask for on this night can change our own lives. This is why believers are told to spend the entire night in worship. Allah has offered us a chance to have a say in our own fate, and such a chance will not come until the following year. As we reflect during that night, ask yourself the question, What do you want to achieve, and how do you intend to get there? In order to get to where you want, you may need to do things differently. You may need to cause disruption in your life. Just like we do at work, when you're setting your personal goals for the year, think about setting personal goals in your own lives during that night of Qadr. Think about setting SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And then next year, judge yourself by those goals that you've set yourself and see what progress you've made. In conclusion, therefore, the idea of shaking up the routine and being in a continued state of discomfort as we are in Ramadan, and the chance to rebuild a better version of ourselves, is in fact the real power of disruption. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Do you think the Salam Center is a disruptive model of Muslim center, Islamic center?
I think so. I mean, I think it's what you're doing is you're asking something different of an Islamic center, and you're changing the model and the ethos by which Islamic centers are known. So, I'm quite happy to categorize that as a disruption. Salawat.